Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I'm back, Charles. Wilton, I'm back. Back in the building. Off of sabbatical. I'm feeling fresh. I've been to the Bahamas. I've been to the media days, all except for the CIAA. They make it a little too hard to make it. My understanding next year they moving to Charlotte, so I'm gonna try to do the full gamut, and then I'll retire for real.
the prodigal son has returned.
Yes, he has. Charles, he's refreshed. He's been on vacation and everything.
I know, right?
Yeah, man. Writing a little bit, getting things done. I'm not gonna say too much about the book. I'm still working through that, but everything else is pretty good. With that being said, let me do official. Mike is on assignment. He really is. He's in the Caribbean. We like flip space. I had my time. He had his. And then the other time, man, he was down in Brazil. He said he was on working assignment then. So he actually got paid to go to Brazil. How lucky can you be?
Yeah, I need that mic job. That's what I need. I need that in my life. Brazil.
Exactly.
A Brazil work truck?
Exactly. Work truck? Like, where do you get this at? What kind of life?
Exactly.
Anyway, I said I just need to be in the luggage. Let me stow away or something. Let me see if I can make it down there. With that being said, he is in Antigua. I think it is this time, a little vacation and rest for the weary. I said it must be nice to go to the Bahamas, back to the Caribbean and get it done. Without further ado, though, welcome to episode 529 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington's out on assignment, so we have none other than Wilton Jackson II. Make sure you say it right, because my son is also the second, so I like to make sure people recognize that, so I know how it is. Not a junior. He's the second. It's a
Thank
little different. It's a little different. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, and none other than Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THD Agency, LLC. THD Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that being said, again, it's good to have you on board, Wilton. We got a little surprise. We're trying to work and see if I can put some little coins together and integrate Wilton into the space. We have maybe expansion project is the way I'll put it. Churning, as I like to say in the conference world, right, Charles? Maybe we're doing a little churning with Dr. Cavill's site, and we'll see by the beginning of September, do we have the ability to offer you even more? Working with Roy, the production team on the backside, as the mad scientist, he's getting things out ready for you over the football season on Saturdays. Will be near and dear to you, so look for more information to come on that. There's polls out there you just see on the Black College Sports. Get in and chime in. Tell us where you want to see us. Tell us where you want to see Charles. We're going to see if we can fit him in with his busy schedule, trying to do the show. He's doing some radio. He's doing some television. He's doing all this. He's being recruited. I was like, man, I done built a monster now. I can't hold him back. So we're going to have to figure if we get a little bit of time. And then you got Wilton over here, Sports Illustrated. So, he's a busy man. But, these people love HBCU sports, so they find a way to give it to you. So make sure you answer that seriously. You get a chance as a fan to tell us where you think we need to be. What are the games of the week? What are some big games of the month? We'll see what we can do to make that happen. We have some folks to support us to do that. But I'd be remiss if I didn't relinquish this information now. Fraternity brother of mine, better known to everybody else as Coach Morland. TSU mourns the loss of basketball legend Robert Morland. He's one of the last of the Mohicans, if you would, of that branch that had a chance to do it in the NAIA, and he did it at the highest level. We'll talk back that he actually grew up and had to do high school and community college and come up to where he got a chance to do it at Texas Southern University. And boy, did he do it big. He had multiple levels of success. But let me get into it. The Texas Southern University family lost a legend and former head men's basketball coach and professor. Robert Bob Morland passed away on Monday. The all-time winningest head coach in TSU history with 406 wins. Morland served as TSU's head men's basketball coach from 1975 to 2001, in addition to a one-year stint during 2007-2008, where he came back and supported the university to help them in terms of transition. The SWAC Hall of Famer recently named TSU Hall of Famer Morland guided TSU to 6 20-win seasons, 1 30-win season, 5 SWAC conference championships, 2 SWAC co-champions, and 3 conference tournament championships. He also won 5 SWAC Coaches of the Year honors, was named American Wire Service 1994 National Coach of the Year, and was crowned in 1994-95 American Wire Service National Black College Champion as well. It was during the days of Dr. Kevin Granger was getting it done. He also coached 3 national scoring champions, and Harry Kelly 2 times. A lot of us SWAC historians, and I got 2 of them right here. They'll take you back memory lanes if they let you. They know a lot about this. And current Vice President of Intercollegiate Athletics, Dr. Kevin Granger, were 3 of his national scoring champions. Morland also recruited a plethora of all-time greats in TSU basketball history. The all-time TSU career leader in scoring, 3-pointers, steals, assists, rebounds, and block shots were recruited by Coach Morland. Morland, a native of Utica, Mississippi, led TSU to the highest of heights on the hardwood as he won a NAIA national championship in 1977. The last one, we thought we were going to be able to change that last year with Langston, but it lets you know how hard it is. He did it in 1977 when NAIA champions for HBCUs was a golden age over a 2-decade period. He caps it off to get it done as TSU plays for the first desegregated championship. Unfortunately, lost that one to McNeese. He comes back in 1977, gets it done, and led TSU to its first ever trip to the NCAA tournament in 1990, along with 2 other tournament appearances in 1994 and 95. A magic one where they looked like they were going to knock off the big Goliath in terms of Arkansas. Tough one to watch on it if you're fans of HBCU sports. Was not to be. They go and win the championship, just to let you know how talented they was. Again, that was Kevin Adams, Kevin Grangers, and some other star-like players getting it done. Morland started his coaching career at Creek High School in Carthage, Mississippi, where he coached from 1962 to 63. Following year, he moved to Utica Junior College in Utica, Mississippi, where he had great seasons there and made an immediate impact as he won 78% of his games over a 12-year period, which saw him win 20-plus games during a 10-year stretch. Upon his retirement from coaching, Morland remained at Texas Southern University as a professor in the Department of Health, Kinesiology, and Sports Studies. Charles, you know that. You've been on board in that department. I remember when I first got a chance to be in that department, and he took me in as if I was the biggest of bigs, and I'm just with the eyes. And this is on the academic side. He was from the coaching strategy when coaches also coach classes. And so multi-talented in terms of what he got done. So a true loss. Morland, as we give him his final respects here on this page, Morland earned his bachelor's degree in physical education at Tougaloo College, 1962, and a master's in 1969, and a specialist degree in 1972 from the University of Indiana. Along with his SWAC Hall of Fame honor, Morland received the SWAC Alumni Association Lifetime Achievement Award for contributions to the Southwestern Athletic Conference in 2009. He also is a member of Tougaloo University and Hines Community College Hall of Fame, as you would imagine. In 2010, TSU officially named the basketball court inside HP&E Arena after Morland, which still remains and has his name on the court, among with the many banners that he puts up in the Hall of Fame and things of that nature. Again, I get to call him a colleague. A lot of people call him coach. Some people were just fans of his from a greater distance. But I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment of silence and then give you all a chance to respond appropriately. Let's take a moment of silence here. We like to do it right for our legends. So I'm going to start with you, Wilton, the youngest of the group, and give us a perspective of what you recall hearing about Coach Morland or watching him on the sidelines.
I think for me, Dr. Cavil, growing up in Mississippi, having seen high school athletes come up, the biggest era for me was, the Monte Ellis, Charlie White era. But I mean, going back before that, the names that you heard before that and the coaches associated with the players before that, you can't talk about those coaches without talking about Moreland. Even just the schools you mentioned, like Utica, Mississippi, Carthage, Mississippi. That's right up the road from me. I'm from Jackson. So these are the things you grow up, you know how sometimes people will tell my age and say, do y'all watch YouTube and look up old highlights and stats and things like that? Well, hey, I'm that person that had to go, look up these things as a kid at, 9 years old, and you had a
That's why we have you on the show, brother.
Exactly. You're 9 years old and somebody said, have you heard about this person? I'm like, well, no, I hadn't heard about this person. But I mean, after all, as you get older, you start reconnecting, the current then obviously to the past, and you look at the legacy that he laid. That's the reason I was able to watch some of the players that I grew up watching, because of the roots and the legacy that he put down. And so obviously rest in peace to him. Not even just a coach, as you said, obviously didn't know him as a professor, but to see coaches that still existed today that came up through the ranks, like from in high school through a community college, and still put a strong emphasis on education, because a lot of times you don't always see coaches that are doing well on the hardwood or even in any sport still putting that same level of emphasis in the classroom. So to be able to see, someone as a stalwart like himself doing what he was doing for so long, you can only give, respects to him and what he's done for college basketball, what he's done for HBCUs and the state of Mississippi overall.
I love it. Well said, Wilton. Charles, what do you have to bring to the table?
The first thing I kind of thought about was just going back to all the barbershop arguments that I used to hear with regards to Coach Morland always being able to come back into Mississippi and get the talent that he wanted. I can hear my dad, I can hear my uncles arguing to this day about how did Coach Covington allow Coach Morland to sneak back into Mississippi and still have Machine Gun Kelly. That was the first thing that really jumped out. But Machine Gun Kelly, JPS legend, Jackson Public Schools legend, SWAC legend, Texas Southern legend. You just grow up with the stories of the way Coach Morland was able to go in and command the dinner table, if you will, being able to recruit. And we affectionately, call, Texas, Texassippi, because it's so many Mississippians over here, whether you're talking about Houston or Dallas. But you talk about the impact that he had in terms of bringing, guys like Machine Gun Kelly, Kevin Granger, Kevin Adams, a lot of Mississippi kids, even going back, thinking about Theon Dotson, just so many players that he was consistently able to bring back into Texas Southern. And just looking at, the resume, recruited a plethora of all-time greats, all-time leader in career leaders in scoring, three-pointers, steals, assists, rebounds, and block shots were all recruited by Coach Morland. That unto itself is just amazing. Yeah. When you think about the mark that he left on Texas Southern, the mark that he left on the SWAC, the mark that he left on basketball in general. And when we talk about basketball in the SWAC, it starts a lot with Texas Southern. And Coach Morland, his mark is indelible with regards to HBCU basketball.
Yeah, well said. I'm glad both of you all shared those points. Again, man, what a legend, and the fact that we had the chance to talk with him, in the classroom. And then on the inside of it, I was allowed to kind of come into the inner circle. So he used to have lunch once a week at a restaurant here. I won't name it because they're not a sponsor. But Granger would allow me to ride over there with him, and he welcomed me to the table. And you would just see legends, basketball-wise, come week after week. They would come and do their penance, sit at the table, in those stories that you talked about. And one of the things I would always remember, he said, even though he, retired for Texas Southern University, he said, Dr. Cavil, I like what you're doing. Take care of my Texas Southern University. I was like, I got you, Doc. I can work with it. Before we go to this break and turn the page and get into some more talking points in terms of me releasing, and we're going to extend this out. I'm releasing the top 21. Obviously, it's only 21 FCS, HBCU programs, major division. So we're going to release all 21. There's a little under 30 Division II, particularly when you add an NIA, but we're going to release the top 21. But we're going to do this weekly. So this week we will do 21 through 15. Today we'll do major division. On Thursday we'll do mid-major division, which means next week we'll do 14 through 8. And then essentially the week before the action starts with the MEAC SWAC Challenge, we'll do the top 7. So please follow us over the last couple of weeks. We're going to do this a little different than everybody else as they release their full top 10 or top 7, top 5, top 20, whatever. We're going to slow bleed you to death. Let you know where they start at the bottom. We're going to give you that, and we're going to let these folks pick it apart and tell you why somebody is too low where they should be. And eventually they'll tell you why they may be too high. But before we do that, FCS All-American Team 2024 is out. First team offense, you have offensive lineman Nick Tace from South Carolina State is somebody to watch. And then you have first team defense. You got a couple of guys on this. Defensive lineman Elijah Williams of Morgan State, linebacker Eric Hunter, Morgan State. You have defensive back Kenny Gallup Jr. I got to talk with these guys during the MEAC football media day. Man, it's going to be some good football in the MEAC. I'm a love of SWAC. SWAC is deep, and we're going to have our fun regardless of what we see, coaches, new, old, what's going on. The SWAC don't SWAC. But MEAC, in terms of some talent, it's some folks there that's going to be interesting and fascinating to watch. First team, special teams, because it's a critical part of the game. Punter Trey Wilholt of FAMU. We'll see how much he will need to get in the game. Now we get into some SWAC as we got some second team folks. Defensive lineman Kelby Givens of Southern is in the house. Defensive lineman Malachi Bailey, Alcorn State. The Braves are getting it done. Second team special team is another punter, Matt Noel of Jackson State University. Finally, I would like to say is Howard's Jared Hunter, named Stats Perform 2024, Walter Payton Award preseason watch list. And I'm sure there are going to be other folks that are added to this as things come up. Preseason watch list also is Miles Crawley, Grambling State, Red Shirt Senior, 6'3", 185 Southwestern Athletic Conference. Hadn't heard his name a lot in terms of preseason hype, but let you know that some people think about his talents. Running back Jared Hunter, Howard graduate, 5'10", 205-pound running back out there representing the MEAC, as you had Crawley obviously representing the SWAC. Just to give you a couple of names, we might give you some other love out there. But let's take our first break, come back on the other side, and we're going to unveil the bottom 3 team in Dr. Cavill's top 21. We're going to see who starts at the bottom and get a discussion to you all to see if these teams are rated too low. Can anybody surprise you and get out the valley, as they say? I don't know if that's a hint or not, but
I was about to say.
we will be right back after this first break.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be. You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel. Yes! That's how you waffle!
Mr. This script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer. Go for key. Even the ultimate pool float inflator. With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true. Gotta get the corners.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Troy, you work here? I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield. Never not working.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, because he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Wilton Jackson II and Charles Bishop. Again, I'll tell you, that's the second, not junior. I'm just letting people know. I have me a second, and that is Chafers Kenyatta Cavil II. So I like that, Wilton. I'm going to make sure people know and get it right.
I appreciate that, Dr. Cavil.
Oh, no doubt. That being said, let's get into this list. Get in this top list. We're going to start with number 21. You know I like to count down. At 21, we have none other than Delaware State. Delaware State is led by second-year coach, Coach Lee Hull. He has been in the MEAC before and actually won a championship there. But Delaware State last year was 1-10, Charles. Mm-hmm. They are 0-5 in the conference race. So they were not ranked in terms of what they look like, but Delaware State is number 21. At number 20, we have North Carolina A&T Aggies. I know a lot of my Aggie friends out there will be mad, but they're just going to have to deal with it. I'm concerned. Vincent Brown over there, second-year coach, much like Delaware State, so you kind of seeing a refrain here. They were 1-10 last year, 0-8 in the conference in 2023. Many people believe that they're going to take a large step forward. I'm not so sure this fast, so they're at number 20. Bringing us to number 19. At number 19, you have Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils. And when you talk about the Delta Devils, they're also led by a second-year coach, Kendrick Wade. Hey, Coach, I like a lot of things about Kendrick Wade, and he should make a move, but still, 1-10, 1-7. I don't know if there's enough for him to make a challenge. Obviously, they had a lot of excitement over the offseason with the upgrades to the football facility, field, and scoring board. So they're certainly going to be in a position where they can recruit a lot better. I'm sure they use a lot of that in recruiting They were excited about what they believe they're going to get done in the media day in the SWAC this past week, but I'm not so sure if it's going to be enough. At number 18, so I'm going to give you these four, and we're going to get a little bit of dialogue on these four. There's another SWAC school, Arkansas Pine Bluff, the Golden Lions. Golden Lions is also led by a second-year coach, Alonzo Hampton, getting it done. They were 2-9, 1-7 last year, and 23 record in terms of 37. So just giving you some indication of what that looks like. So 21, Delaware State, the Hornets. Number 20 is North Carolina A&T Aggies. Number 19 is Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils. Number 18, Arkansas at Pine Bluff Golden Lions. I'll give you the next three when we come back from a second break. But before we do that, I wanted to get into a little discussion. And what do you think about these bottom four programs? One out of the MEAC, one independent program, and two out of the SWAC. I'm going to let our guest start it off, Charles. I'm going to be nice today. I'm going to go with Wilton and let him get his taste in here and do this and see if we're going to invite him back. You know, my thing is you got to do things well. And I'm not going to say which direction you go, but you got to make sure you can show up and do this.
Oh,
No, before you do that, A&T Roy say, what the hell?
Hey, I'm already aware that A&T
I like
fans.
that, A&T Roy. You're right. If that is the end of the season, you're right. Somebody needs to use the job. We ain't gonna let nobody lose their job yet. This is a ranking. Don't get too scuttlebutt, A&T Roy. You're all right. It's playing on the field. But Wilton, let me know your thoughts. Did I get this wrong? Is it A&T right? A&T should be below these teams here or what?
Doc, you know what? One thing I know about A&T fans, they gonna always be mad whether it's good or always be something to say. Like I can say that about A&T, FAMU, Jackson State, Alcorn, Southern. Like it's always gonna be something every single time, no matter what. Even if you get it right, it's gonna still be something. But to
well, you put them in first place. You didn't give them enough first place votes.
You didn't give them enough first place votes.
And they could still be in first place. But I digress. I think that your list is pretty solid in my opinion. I definitely think Delaware State at 21. I'm not mad about that. I do think A&T can take somewhat of a surge. I don't think it's going to be drastic. I don't think they're going to go from 1-10 to 7-4, 8-3, 9-2. I don't see that happening. Maybe 4 or 5 games right now before the season starts. That could change. Obviously, games are played on the field, but I don't see like drastic change. Like what I said initially, 6, 7, 8 games. I don't know if that's going to happen by this season. Mississippi Valley, Arkansas Pine Bluff. I'll say this about the coaches, and I like how the way you brought them in. I definitely like what Kendrick. I like how Kendrick Wade is trying to build the program and where he wants to take it. I definitely love the energy from Alonzo Hampton and Arkansas Pine Bluff. Yeah. I think so with them, it's more so about making sure players are playing together. You know, more so less than make sure they're playing together, but then also making sure that they are playing for each other. Because sometimes there was some issues with that through the season with them last year, not turning the ball over so much because they would start off in games and then they would almost just like deconstruct, like they would just fall apart. Probably was a team that would literally hang with you for like a half, and then the second half, I wouldn't necessarily say they would always deconstruct, but they just wouldn't necessarily have that same level of energy that they would have in that first half. So honestly, I'm not mad about this list. I definitely still give the edge of Arkansas Pine Bluff over Mississippi Valley. Maybe you put A&T above Valley if you want to. For the A&T fans out there that might feel a little bit better than being in 20 and putting them in 19, maybe. But I definitely think I'm okay with this list. I definitely think Arkansas Pine Bluff deserves to be over Mississippi Valley. If you want to make a case to put A&T over Valley, that's something. But I definitely think where Delaware State is at number 21, I'm okay with that.
He said Delaware State cannot get out the bottom. Let me ask you this, Wilton, before I jump to Charles and get his thoughts. Is A&T, even if I have this wrong, this is for A&T Roy, at the end of the season, will A&T be in the second quadrant? Meaning, will they be above 15?
That's tough. On July 30th, I can't say that. I can't. I cannot.
I just had to ask the question. That was for A&T Roy.
I will not lie.
And what I use in these rankings is I also use, thanks for AD Drew, where he does a breakdown in terms of the strength of schedule matrix. So I use that in these rankings along with the strength of schedule this year, but I use what they did last year in terms of who they play this year, about where they fit in the strength of schedule, gives me a percentage based on what they are likely to have in the outcome. So this is a predictor. We'll see how much it is. But with that being said, let me go to you, Charles. These bottom 4 teams. It's tough to be at the bottom. There's nowhere but up. Yeah. But you notice all these are second-year coaches. So I believe somebody's going to break out of this.
Yeah.
Which one of the coaches are going to break out of this? And then you can give me your analysis of what do you think, thoughts on this bottom 4.
And I think the buzzword that you kind of hear from each of these coaches, especially coming out of their respective media days, is continuity. Coming into the second year, coaches feeling like they have a much better handle on things. Just looking at it, my conscience wants to put A&T above Pine Bluff and Valley just on principle. But just in looking at, how do you go from being at the bottom of the league in offense to getting into, like you mentioned, Dr. Cavil, that second quadrant? I mean, this was a team that they only averaged 261 yards a game with regards to offense. And to make a jump getting into that second quadrant, that's gonna be tough. That part I'm really struggling with regards to A&T, because you're trying to get in that sphere where you're beating a Monmouth, a Towson, a Rhode Island, and I don't know if I see it just yet. Wilson, you touched on something that I thought was really important. Talking about Alonzo Hampton and Kendrick Wade, just the enthusiasm that they bring. And if somehow those teams can, like you've mentioned, carry that enthusiasm into the second half, they can turn a head or two for a couple of weeks here. And I'm trying to look at teams in this bottom 4 who can get to 4 wins, who can get to potentially 5 wins. Out of looking at them right now, I would think that Pine Bluff might be that team that could get to maybe 4 or 5 wins.
Yep.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
My first choice.
Let's take our second break. We'll come back on the other side, and I'll give you the last 3 of the bottom 7, if you would, of the top 21 major division programs, HBCU football style, for 2024. We'll see at the end of the season the predictors and see who shakes it out. But particularly, as you know, we do the weekly top 7. We'll see what that looks like. That being said, stick with us. We'll be back on the other side.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so we have none other than Wilton Jackson II is in the house. We have the remaining 3 in the bottom 7, and we said we would release this week. So we're going from 21 to 15, which brings us to number 17, which is Texas Southern University first-year head coach Chris Dishman, famously of the Oilers, and played with a couple of other NFL teams during his NFL stint. He is leading the Tigers. The Tigers last season were 3-8 overall, 2-6 in a lot of ways, probably cost the former coach his job, which brought in Chris Dishman the first year. He's above some of the second-year coaches. I don't know if that's something to say about the talent over at Texas Southern University. Also, in terms of the schedule, I think it helps them out a little bit in terms of who they have on the schedule, particularly those that are going to be at home. So I'm fascinated to see what that looks like. Then we have Hampton Pirates. This might surprise some folks in terms of them bringing in a head coach, Trent Boykin, first-year head coach, late in the process, didn't get a chance to recruit or anything. But there's some talent on that Hampton team. In fact, they went 5-6, 3-5. Oddly enough, transfer portal didn't hurt them too much. They didn't lose a lot over that period, and they got probably, arguably, for a lot of folks believe, the best quarterback in terms of HBCU football going into the season. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what that looks like as people are going off in terms of the question. I'm going to leave that alone. By the end of the conversation, I will bring some of this talk up and bring it to folks. Lonnie Shaw is doing what he does and just letting folks know how he really thinks. And then we have first-year head coach, Southern Jaguars, that was 6-5, 5-3. They let go of their coach, who's still in the league, offensive coordinator with Grambling in terms of what's going on there. But Southern Jaguars will be led by a veteran in terms of his coaching pedigree. First time to lead the program, which is Terrence Graves. He's taken over, as I said, a team that was 5-3 in the conference play last year, 2023. So 17, 16, and 15. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of these bottom 7? I know it's hard for you. Traditionally, you see Southern tends to be up. So I know where you're going to say the team that's going to break out of this or whatever that you're probably disappointed in the rankings. But it is what it is. And I want to see if I hold true. Did I startle you a little bit with these next 7? Anything get your nerves kind of nervous in seeing these teams at the bottom 7, or did I get it right? First-year head coaches is the theme with these 3.
Yeah, I would have to think Southern obviously has some momentum going into the year, especially when you talk about Kendrick Grimes back there in the backfield, Noah Biden coming back for another year. Can he make the next step in terms of being a much better quarterback? Defensively, Terrence Graves is going to have some guys that's going to be able to fly around. Southern becomes a really intriguing team in the SWAC West, but watch this. And it's just unfortunate the way Texas Southern wilted last year. They were decimated by injuries, but it's going to be very interesting to watch this team this upcoming year because they bring back Jace Wilson. He was, and when you talk about throwing him into the fire, he afforded himself very well last year. Huge upset win over Alcorn, where I think he kind of got over the hump, if you will, in terms of just progressing through the course of the season. And you know, you take a look at some of the pieces they got. Jaron Johnson, who I think is going to be a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. You talk about Shanzavia Lewis being in the backfield this year. That they become kind of an interesting team, just kind of looking at some of the teams that will be coming to Houston. And Hampton that's another intriguing team. 5-6. They were the #1 rushing team in the CIA last year. They bring back a juggernaut running back in Elijah Burris. That's a team more so than A&T, excuse me, A&T fans, that I really think can make that jump into second tier, maybe bottom of the first tier, you know. But it's going to be a challenge with a first-year coach. So, but we'll see what the Hampton Pirates have.
See, this is where I get Charles every time. They forget to look at the schedule. Wilton, let me give you some cheat notes.
Okay.
Check out this Southern schedule, because I know you feel a little something about Southern too. And because y'all go back to all y'all little history. We talked about Coach Morland and all that history. Y'all get caught up in the fanfare. Southern was this. But just because they play Jackson tough and y'all got to deal with them, that's a different thing. Everybody else ain't got the same hiccup in terms of Southern in their mind. But this is Southern's schedule. Southern's on the road at McNeese. Southern's on the road at Jackson State. Southern's on the road at Prairie View. Southern's on the road to Texas Southern. They do get Alcorn at home. But Southern's on the road to FAMU. Southern's on the road to Huntsville, Alabama A&M. So that's their road schedule.
Yeah.
Can they get 3 of those?
You said about you said about 6 games, right? That was 6 on the road or 5 on the road?
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 on the road, 5 of them conference, 4 of them conference.
Well, Doc, you know how Southern is when they come to Houston now. They got two road games in Houston. And the home field advantage becomes negligible.
Yeah, but I'm saying I agree with that. I'm not saying that fans are not going to follow and get them upset. But I'm talking about when you talk about the talent and playing all those road games. That is a large road games, and that starts to add up.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like Texas Southern has any fear of Southern. They beat them the last couple of years. I don't give a damn.
2 of the last 3. Yeah.
They put the whooping on them. So Texas Southern, it is not. Maybe you can think about Prairie View, but hell, Prairie View just what they had last year too. That's so true. I'm not sure how many schools you talking about with their fan base, and the players ain't gonna be intimidated about them. They can bring as many fans they want.
Boy, you come back fired up. You got A&T folks.
Hey man, hey, I just do my homework. I've been on a sabbatical. Y'all been talking and doing all this. I've been doing the data. I've been doing the research. You know what I do? I believe in Mike. I like Mike said, go do your homework. Go do your data. I like to look at the schedule because particularly when you look at the SWAC, you know, MEAC is one thing. It's a 5-game gauntlet and you got to go through it. And I think that's tough as hell because they all packed up and you just don't feel like you can lose anything. I think you're still going to find a team with 2 losses. But you want to have the right 2 losses because you want it to be in your favor in such a way that you had the head-to-head tiebreakers.
And at the right time,
you're gonna get 2 losses as well, right? But the thing in the SWAC is the problem you got is you have these unbalanced schedules, meaning everybody doesn't play anything. So some schools are going to get the benefit of a schedule that is friendlier, I would say, versus those that are not. I'm not even going to get into it with A&T. They playing what they think is the mighty Colonial, and now they got to figure that out. That's a whole different devil's trick. They made that bed. They got to lay in it and find a way to win some goddamn games so we can be put them high in bottom 7 on that list. And so that's up to them. They got to figure it out. Put some money. They just had $200 million. Put some of that money in the athletics. Get some scholarships. Go pay you some more. Let you pay them now. You go pay them. Go get some money. Pay you some talent. So that's what it's going to take to be in the Colonial. I'm sorry, Coastal, whatever y'all want to call it. Wilton.
Charles, he came back excited.
He came back lobbing grenades. I'm sitting over here like, clear.
No, for real.
Hey, Wilson, let me know your thoughts on these three here.
Yeah, so when I listen to you talk about Southern's schedule, out of those 6 road games, clearly I don't have them winning 6 road games right off the bat. I think to your point, you asked, do they win at least 3? There's possibility they could win 3 or 4. Do I know which 3 they're gonna win today? We don't know, but I definitely say out of the 6, half of them they could potentially win.
Man, if they go 4-6 on this road trip, that means 3 of them are probably conference games.
That's true.
They're gonna win 3 at home.
Yeah.
Shit, they in championship race. They 6-2 at worst.
Yeah,
hell no, that ain't gonna happen. You crazy?
Well,
You crazy? Y'all crazy? Y'all can't add.
This is
my math class, stats class.
This is a Southern team that was predicted to finish pretty high in the SWAC West this year.
No, they was at the bottom. People
Well, yeah, they were. I'm talking about somebody else. They were at the bottom.
You think about last year.
I am thinking about last
when
year.
Everybody fell in love with the head coach that they fell out of love with so fast and put the boot on it. Send him up to North.
Charles, he got all the grenades today. Please, like we need to just duck. We need to duck. But no, I'll say this. I think on paper, when looking at those 3 teams, I think the team that has probably the most talent returning coming back, obviously, is Hampton. First year coach. So depending on what structure, what style he wants to run with their program will determine a lot about where they go. But as far as like the talent that they're going to bring back, that's a very dangerous team, in my opinion. Probably the most dangerous. When I look at Texas Southern, if there's a team that I would say shake some things up, shock some people, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised based off some of the players that Coach Dishman has brought in. And where he's looking to take the program. I don't know where it's gonna go again on July 30th. But if he does shake some things up, it won't necessarily come as a surprise. And with Southern, all I can say is I hope Coach Graves, with his history in the SWAC, his history with Southern and Grambling, specifically now Southern, I hope he can win some games, because if not, they're gonna push him out soon too.
You got 6 games to make your mark.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm gonna get political on y'all. I'm putting like that. Y'all weird. With that being said, list all 7 if you would, for our producer Roy. If you would get a chance, bring up all 7 of them so they can see it, because I want them to ask this question with all 7 of them on the list. Starting with you, staying with you, Wilton. Which of these 7, I think I know where you're going, because y'all hate to admit it, but y'all love some Southern Jaguars. Which of these 7?
I love Baton Rouge.
I knew I'd get y'all to pause on that one. With that being said, these bottom 7, which 1 or 2 of these bottom 7 at the end of the year you're gonna be like, see, Dr. V, I told you, they're not gonna be at the bottom 7. Wilton?
I think for me, I would have to say Hampton. And I would have to say, I'm probably going to go with Southern. Hampton and Southern.
Well, give Southern some love.
It's hard. Oh, it's hard. Oh, it's hard.
Hey, man. You're a professional. Do what you got to do, man.
Hey, I think the teams that will not be in the bottom 7 are I'm gonna go with the Hampton Pirates. Damn. And the Southern Jaguars. I do not think they will be in the bottom 7.
Boy, I tell you, the folks that grew up hating the Jaguars, I can't believe y'all give them so much love. But hey, it is what it is. We're equal opportunists. We'll see what that talks about, man. They just go. I gave them every out they could have. Told them about a schedule. First year coach. You talking about Biden played in, couldn't get through the Bayou Classic, but y'all putting all your money on him. Okay, all right. I'm gonna leave it right there. We'll be right back after this last break. We'll come back on the other side. I'll get a couple of thoughts from these guys. We'll see if we can get in a little bit of this legislation lawsuits are out there and get their mind in terms of where and how this may affect HBCUs. I might provide a little more information there as well. But stick with us after this break. Obviously, we're all excited about football, but there's the business side of this coming out, and we need to know how we're going to be able to move forward as HBCU football programs. So stick with us after this break.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a loss, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Labs. Really interested in your thoughts from various perspectives of this U.S. District case, obviously known as the House case. U.S. District Court's Judge Claudia Wilkins is presiding over this case. This is the case that we've heard about for some time now, with the money going to players over the last 10 years. There's a standing and allowing players to be paid a nominal amount. It looks like they capped it at about $23 million in regards that will be split over various sports. But the question I kind of had here is going to be surrounding of how this will affect HBCUs. But I wanted to educate our listeners a little more and get some other stuff out here that while it looks like this case will probably move forward, it's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like. We've heard, or if you hadn't, that Houston Christian University obviously had a lawsuit and went to the court, back to the judge, and saying that they were not really a party to this, didn't have the decision parts of it, but financially as a conference and institution that they're going to be liable to pay as this is spread over the Division I schools. And so it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. Now it looks like you have maybe 2 state attorney generals getting into the fray. Specifically, attorney generals of Montana and South Dakota are considering legal action to challenge aspects of the House settlement. According to Sportico's Danielle Libet and Michael McCain, who explained, quote, the AG could maintain and enjoy the standings by distressing. They represent their respective state governments, which is turn charter and finance the public universities that are parties to the settlement. by virtue of the NCAA membership. From that lens, states' monies, i.e. taxpayer monies, are at stake in the settlement. So too are state governments and university officers' duties to oversee such monies and meet related fiduciary obligations. The AGs might insist they should have been consulted in the settlement discussions and should have been able to seek modifications before its approval, end quote. However, we've seen this, that the U.S. District Court Judge Claudia Wilkins, quote, probably would be opposed to deny these motions to intervene. For starters, neither the AGs nor the states they represent are parties directly to the litigation. Remember, they sued the P5 schools, now the P4s, if you would, thus lacking standings, while the AGs consist in the public universities in their state all fall within this. So I told you a little bit about that side of it. There's another part of this. The plaintiff lawyers in the House case, those are the P4, P5 schools, have asked U.S. District Court Judge Claudia Wilkins to move the date of the hearing for preliminary approvals from September to August. That's September 5th to August 12th to the 14th, or August 19th to 22nd, according to the U.S. Today's Steve Berkowitz. So a lot of transition is going on here, just to kind of keep people up to date, that this is going to be very fluid. We'll keep you from a sports perspective update in terms of the access I get to a lot of information from a sport studies perspective of some of the latest. But I wanted to kind of go back and take a step back. Obviously, Charles Wilton, you probably have heard that the scholarship limitations have increased for just about every sport. I think women's was the only one that basically stayed in place. Since then, a lot of people were talking about how this may affect HBCUs, but you may not be aware of the fact that these will not be full counter scholarships, that they'll be able to give out partials. They do not necessarily have to go to the maximum. There's a lot of talk, even from the P5, certainly G5 schools, that they will not go to the maximum. G5 probably will not be able to afford to go to the maximums. The low major, mid-major, depending on how you talk about it in terms of the other sports, they're unlikely to probably be able to give the full scholarships. But we talk about HBCUs. What are your thoughts, Charles, from your perspective, of this new robust update of HBCUs in terms of how will this affect them? For those out there that may not be aware, there are many HBCUs, particularly in the what we call Olympic sports, that do not give the maximum number of scholarships at this time. So with that kind of a lot that I put out there, Charles, you can take it away and decide which direction you can go. I see the pain on your face in terms of there's just a lot to wrap your head around, but be true here. Tell the folks what you think.
Just from a fan perspective, I mean, how do you go about funding? How do you go about funding the Olympic sports? What does it mean for your current stakeholders? How much more will they have to dig in their pockets to support your various programs? I did read a very interesting discussion in terms of what the increase in scholarship limits could potentially mean with regards to athletes looking at HBCUs. Whereas, and you kind of heard a lot of coaches talking about that in terms of we scanned the transfer portal, but we brought a lot of younger guys in. We went back to high schools again. So in terms of maybe the high school athlete gets another look-see, if you will, whereas we saw for a period of time with regards to the transfer portal, you were getting older, more established players who were kind of eating up scholarships and things of that nature. So what does it mean for potential high school athletes that might get an opportunity now where they were kind of getting locked out for, maybe a 2-3 period year of time?
Well, similar question to you in terms of what do you see the space for HBCUs? Is there an HBCU department that you've been able to kind of gaze over the years, or AD, VP of athletics, that you see that may push the envelope, that they may go a little further in a given sport, that is really making some noise, and they think if they give additional scholarships, even if it's part of it, that they can maybe command the stage and find a way to make a given sport more of a revenue generator. Do you think that exists out there in this space?
I think it's possible, Dr. Cavil. I can't say that I've seen it happen yet, though. Especially when you start talking about those Olympic sports, and what better time to talk about that right now? We're in the Olympics, and as a person right now, I'm writing a story that'll come out on a different platform in a couple of weeks or so. Well, in about a week or so, talking to an Olympian from an HBCU, and one of the main questions that I asked her was like, what was her experience like coming from an HBCU and the resources that she had versus like once she left the HBCU and continuing to train for the Olympics. And she said to me that it made her, have a stronger sense of pride in herself, but then also knowing that she holds a right within herself to pull up the next person, regardless of the resources being there or not. So to your point of looking at like, will this directly affect HBCUs right away? I think we already kind of know the question, or we know the answer to that question. It's probably not going to affect a lot of HBCUs right away. And also to hit on a point that Charles said in terms of recruiting, because they're not going to get more scholarships in that regard, you are going to miss out on some of those potential pieces that could come into your program, because they may say, hey, maybe they're not going to an ACC school or a Big Ten school per se, but maybe they're going to a G5 school as opposed to coming to an HBCU, because it literally is more scholarship money at this school. And it might not be a huge difference. For some, it might be, but then for some, it might not be super huge. It might just be that, hey, if I don't take this money to go to school, then I'm not going to have a way to go to school. And they really, and for a lot of athletes, that's one thing I've heard from a lot of them, whether big or small, is like, I needed this money to go to school to either play ball, whether it was volleyball, basketball, football, track and field, you name it. They needed the money to go to school, and for whatever sport that they were doing, that also helped with education, and they had to take the money.
Yeah, it's fair to put that out there, and I think that's an important concept and why I wanted to ask you. One last thing when we're talking about these business side of this, so we can kind of get into the discussion. You also seen the NCAA came out in terms of what the NIL rulings, where they were talking about if a organization, collectives, or a business from an institutional perspective was going to pay a player for their NIL likeness, right, at the amount of $600 or more, they had to report it to the NCAA. It didn't mean that the NCAA is going to stop it or anything. It just says report it. Now, there's a second part of this, because this is a 30-page document. It talks about what that looks like, but in that, it also talked about the collectives. And so there's some questions in regards to collectives maybe moving in-house and how this component of the $600 may affect them. But I do want to make it clear that this is just a reporting mechanism. It doesn't sound like they'll be in a position where they'll be able to say, yes, they can or can't take this. But from an HBCU perspective, in conjunction with what we're just talking about, how much more important do these collectives, if we want to use that framing, booster groups supporting HBCUs, how much more do they become important to supporting even in terms of SWAC competition? Not looking at outside of that, Charles. What are your thoughts on that?
It becomes really important, but the thing that jumps out for me, I think you do get to a point where you start to become strained, especially if it's not deductible. I think that's the thing that really, kind of hits you in your face. Is like, I'm putting resources into my beloved program, but you would love to see some sort of benefit in that regard, especially if you can write some of it off.
Yeah, and that's the second part of this, is that they are pretty clear that if you cannot clearly show that this is nonprofit side of it, that you are paying like an NIL, which is fine, but you can't write that off as a tax relief. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting from that perspective. In terms of $600, I mean, there are HBCU alumni out there that could see and rationally pay, $500 to an individual to represent their business, whether it's consulting or whether they are in private practice as a lawyer or a medical doctor, dentist, right? A practitioner, they can do that. Or if they own their own entrepreneurial business or a smaller or mid-sized business that would certainly see the benefits of advertising their business, right? At 500, a small plug, you're welcome to make sure that you contact us. If you're interested in advertising on the show, we can get your information out there. And you'll see us do more aggressively of network coming up to the fall to make that. But turning it back to the HBCU, Wilton, last question for you is that perspective. What do you see that threshold? Do you see people staying under that threshold so they don't have to worry about it? Or do you see it as no big deal? Those that want to pay athlete $1,000 will just do what's necessary in terms of signing the paperwork and sending it over?
I think you're going to see people make the choice that they want to make. I think that if they want to give $500 or $600 and stay within that threshold, that's what they're going to do. But then, of course, in every bunch, there's going to be somebody that always goes above and beyond, that wants to give more. And I think for those that want to give more, they've already been knowing ahead of time before probably this threshold was even put in place that they were going to give more regardless. Because there are some people for their programs, if they graduated from their program, if they're just a devoted individual to their program, they're going to give back to their program no matter what. You got fans. I'm just using this as an example. You got fans from Texas Southern in 1965 or 1970 or 1950. I want to give a scholarship to that player right there. And I don't want to give it to nobody else, but I want to give him or her $600. And that's what I'm going to do. No matter what it is, who it is, that player may not never see the field as much, or whatever sport they do, they may not be as the most important player on that particular team. But if that person who's a devoted alum that loves this school that much and they have their mind made up that they're going to give this particular amount of money to a person, that's what they're going to do. There's nothing that you could say to change their mind.
Right. Good points on both sides in terms of how this affects. But that's what you get here right here on Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, as we have Wilton coming in and stealing a little bit of the stage and the time. You did well. I'm going to welcome you back. We'll, again, talk to you off the record and see if we can get you on to do multiple platforms. I know you're a busy man and you make your money a little bit at other places, but we're going to see if we can put a couple of nickel dimes together and see if we can keep you shining over here with us. With that being said, thank you for having me back. I hope you enjoyed the talk today as we give you all sides of what's going on in the HBCU sports. Thank you for listening Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, today we had Wilton Jackson II giving us some updates and outputs of what's going on. I know he says look out for some writings that he's going to put out there to give you some information on what's going on and connecting you with the HBCU landscape. Again, I want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock right here. We will be coming back in the fall after the MEAC SWAC Challenge. We'll move and bring back our Sunday's edition of the show. Charles and I and Mike, is my understanding, will be in Atlanta for the MEAC SWAC Challenge. Wilton, you going to be able to get over there to that game?
Yes, I will be there.
Nice. So we're going to have a crew together in multiple sides. We might do a little something. We will do something that Saturday. It'll be from a Black College Sports where we'll bring all the show and a lot of people together to bring you that. We look forward to Thursday as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, DrKenyattaCavil. I know what the other guy wants to call it. I'm calling it Twitter. I'll be damned. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1. You better be lucky that I even still on the platform. Facebook and YouTube, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Like so many people are left, you can see that they're losing that money, but it's a whole different discussion. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Now, Wilton. Get it right. I'm just going to let you know. I don't play that. Charles, nice to you.
Lecture.
Dismiss.